I'm Data Driven Doug. This week, we're tracing the history of weight loss stimulants, the pills that promised a smaller waistline by forcing the body into mandatory overtime. We're going over how these drugs actually worked, the cultural obsession that fueled their rise, and the heavy price paid in public health when we decided to treat our bodies like machines that never had to rest. To understand where we are now, we have to go back to that moment where the medical world decided that potent stimulants were the solution. And welcome to the amphetamine age. For decades, the pharmaceutical industry's solution for weight loss was remarkably simple. Just give people amphetamines. In the 1950s and 60s, it was a pharmaceutical boom that turned a psychiatric stimulant into a household staple. And as a pharmacist, I see off label usage every day. And that's when a drug is used for something other than its original intent. And the industry realized that drugs like Benzedrine and Dexedrine had a side effect far more profitable than their primary purpose. They deleted the human desire to eat. By the late 50s, billions of these tablets were being churned out. And this wasn't just medicine, it was a tool for maintaining the social status quo. Pharma marketed the image of the effortlessly thin housewife, providing a chemical shortcut to meet rigid aesthetic standards while staying revved up for a never-ending domestic workload. It was social compliance in a bottle, however, sold as glamour. Inside your head, amphetamine is a master of disguise. It's structurally similar to dopamine and norepinephrine, which allows it to trick your brain's transporters into letting it inside. Normally, these transporters act like a vacuum, sucking up all the excess chemicals in between the gaps in the brain cells just to keep everything nice and clean and tight. But once amphetamine actually gets inside, it hijacks those controls and it forces the vacuum to run in reverse. Instead of cleaning up, the cell starts vomiting a massive, uncontrolled flood of chemicals, norepinephrine and dopamine, back into that space. In the hypothalamus, that surge hits that high alert button. And think, when you're running from a predator, you don't stop for a snack. I might, but your central nervous system stalls the gut and mutes those hunger signals. It treats eating like a luxury that you can no longer afford. You can't keep the nervous system pinned at maximum capacity forever. And ignoring that, let's push the scale lower. So we'll start layering in thyroid hormones to overspeed that metabolism. Ooh, but when you do that, you're shaky and you can't sleep and you're jittery. So we'll just add some barbiturates in to just chemically calm you and rest those jitters, and maybe you can get some sleep.
Editing Data Driven Duck here. Just wanted to mention those two drugs in that product. One is methamphetamine, and the other one's pentobarbital, which is used for euthanasia. So just want to let that sink in.
By the mid 60s, rainbow pill clinics were dispensing all those drugs alongside diuretics to help purge the water weight, and digitalis, which is a heart medicine to help heart arrhythmias, which was caused by all the other drugs that they were throwing on their unfortunate patients. It made this balancing act performed on like a tightrope made of glass and razors and covered with tetanus spores. Common sense says you can't throw a pharmacy's worth of conflicting drugs at a person and act all surprised when their heart quits. The PR spin finally hit a wall during the 1967 congressional testimony where the body count was finally put on the record. So by 1970, the Controlled Substances Act brought the hammer down on these unrestricted stimulants. But the industry doesn't just stop and just doesn't give up. It just gets, in this case, a little nicer. After 1970, they moved into sympathomimetic amines. Those were biological mimics designed to imitate that same fight or flight response from before, while appearing much safer and more respectable. We're talking about phenylpropanolamine, ephedra, and phentermine. The first one is phenylpropanolamine, or PPA. A little bit of data-driven Doug lore. One of my professors was actually on the team that originally synthesized phenylpropanolamine. I think that was like super cool, but in retrospect, not as much. This was the ingredient in Actitrim and Dexatrim, two very popular diet aids at the time. It was also in many over-the-counter cold medicines like Triaminic, Contact, and others. It was marketed as a safe alternative to those rainbow pills. But while it told your brain you weren't hungry, it was silently spiking your blood pressure. And you know what? By the time the FDA yanked it in 2000, the data showed it was a direct trigger for hemorrhagic strokes, especially in young women. And that's why they actually pulled it from the market. But then came ephedra, the loud, chaotic cousin of the 90s, because it was natural. It bypassed the safety testing required for non-natural medicine. It was everywhere: gas stations, health stores, gym bags, until a trail of heart attacks and the deaths of a professional athlete forced a ban in 2004. This is just a little warning that natural definitely doesn't always mean safe. Finally, we have phentermine. It's the sole survivor of this whole volatile family chain. It's a chemical cousin to amphetamine. It hits that same fight or flight switch while avoiding those specific cardiovascular disasters that plague both phenylpropanolamine and ephedra. It actually remains almost like an anchor in the world of weight loss, a drug that has persisted while the industry slowly began shifting away from those into more hormonal and metabolic pathways that we see today. The names on the bottles have changed, but the willingness to trade heart health and overall health for a smaller pant size remains exactly the same. And this is not a judgment call. Weight loss is hard, it's challenging, and it's exhausting at times. So people trying to get an aid, a way to help them, is entirely understandable. I'm Data Driven Doug. Every month, I unravel a fresh topic, dissecting the whole thing through daily shorts, weekly side quests, and full length deep dives, plus quizzes, polls, and some interesting looks at things that are, to me at least, scientifically captivating. If that sounds like your brand of curiosity, you know what to do. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Boop!